Hello and welcome back to Tinker Talks Guns. The urban landscape of the 19th century was a time of violent crime on a level that we would find frankly unimaginable today. Kind of made the 90s look like Disney and the 1990s look like Disneyland. And as people do, they wanted to arm themselves against this. So there were literally hundreds of thousands or millions of compact concealable revolvers made. And while Colt, Smith & Wesson, Forehand and Wadsworth, Iver Johnson, and others made huge quantities of revolvers, their production was far outstripped by the hundreds, maybe thousands of small gunsmithing shops that proliferated around Liège, Belgium. Liège, Belgium? I've never been sure how to pronounce that. Anyway, a very, very common type of revolver produced were variants of the bulldog style that was basically invented by Webley in the 1860s. And these were, bulldogs themselves were large caliber guns on the whole, although the Forehand and Wadsworth made in America was available in both 38 Smith & Wesson and 32 Smith & Wesson as 6 and 7 shooters respectively. And these were very popular and very widely produced. There were also a lot of bulldog style revolvers that were produced in smaller calibers, notably 22 short and 32, mostly 320 revolver, which is the same as 32 Colt short, and there's some argument over which cartridge copied the other one. And it was very low powered, but the purpose of these revolvers was as much to send the baddies packing as it was to actually kill or incapacitate them. Nobody wants to get shot. And in the 19th century and early 20th century, when we didn't have particularly modern medicine, getting shot could be a very serious thing indeed, and a lot of people died of sepsis from gunshot wounds. So the very smallest of the bulldog-style revolvers, which often featured folding triggers, in 22 short up to 32 caliber, came to be referred to colloquially as puppies. And this is a puppy. And as you can see, it is quite small. It has the typical folding trigger. It has a safety catch, which was common on European-made revolvers, and it is completely unmarked except for Belgian proofs. Now, another clue to its Belgian origin is the oval-shaped closed-end flutes in the barrel. That was very characteristic of Belgian revolvers. And it's a very compact, very handy little thing. It makes a modern 38 snubby look giant by comparison. As you can see in my rather large hand, it is genuinely tiny. So what characterizes the bulldog style revolvers is this arrangement where the loading lever goes down the central pivot for the revolver and is retracted and used to eject cartridges. And we'll have a closer look at this on the tabletop because it's so small we pretty much need to. Before we get into the weeds on this, I'd like to thank my supporters on Patreon. This is very much a shoestring operation, and your contributions help more than you know. I'd also like to thank channel benefactors, those individuals and businesses that have contributed to the channel in innumerable ways and really helped make this work. Among them, the local collector that is allowing me to present this revolver for your edification and amusement. So let's go to the tabletop and have a look. Now, this gun is in quite good condition, and it was possibly one of the more expensive variations because the frame can't make it out very well, is actually color case hardened, which was considered a more swanky treatment for a finish. The mechanism is very simple. There may or may not have been a spring originally to keep the trigger from flopping, but if there is, it has perished. And that's actually fairly common for old Belgian revolvers like this. The flat springs and V-springs that were used in their construction have not proven up to the task 120, 130 years later. But again, these were inexpensive guns by and large that were made for everyday people to carry for self-defense, primarily in urban environments. Now, like a lot of Velodog revolvers of this period, this one has a safety located here. In the up position, you cannot pull the trigger. In the down position, you can, which makes it marginally easier to shoot because this is a very heavy trigger pull, probably 15 or 16 pounds. But since this was made to use at an arm's length, most crime happened at very close range in the constricted confines of the narrow streets and narrow alleys of 19th century urban living. This one was probably made somewhere between 1890 and World War I, really, because that's when this style was popular, as was this type of safety. A lot of them have levers on the side. Now, to field strip this for cleaning, which is a necessary safety thing to clean and inspect it, you rotate the head of this rod, pull it out, swing this to the side on a pivot, and to unload the gun, you would open the side gate and use this to push the cartridges out far enough that you could hook them out with your fingers. To disassemble the gun for safety inspection and cleaning, YouTube, you would pull this out, and you can see there's this round plate that is cut for both the barrel and the unloading rod rather, to swing in and out. Pull this out, open the loading gate, and the cylinder will fall out on your table. Now, normally I like to test fire guns like this so you can see them shooting, but this is in .320 Revolver, which is a smaller diameter casing than other 32 calibers, and uses a heel-base bullet, and I do not have any of those. And I have not found a reasonable cartridge to make them out of. So you're just going to have to take my word that this is in excellent condition and would probably be extremely functional. Now, it would be difficult to shoot accurately, both because of the small size and extremely heavy trigger, and the rear sight is a tiny, tiny notch. The front sight's pretty good, but the rear sight, good luck. Because the notch is barely there. This one also has a dent right next to it, which could confuse the issue. But again, these were never meant for target grade accuracy, and which is fine because they're not capable of it. And a little fussy getting that all the way in. But this is very typical of the type, very representative. It has gutta percha grips, a type of hard rubber. And overall, while the steel of these could be of significantly variable quality, this one seems to be very well made. It's very nicely fitted, and everything works just as it should. So it's a neat little gun, and at some point, I suppose I will figure out a method to cobble up some ammunition for it. But that day is not today, and of course I have to return this one to its proper owner. Now, guns like this can be had in a bewildering variety of price ranges. And sometimes they're very cheap, and sometimes people are highly optimistic. So giving you an idea of what it would cost to get into one of these not only would send YouTube's idiot robots into fits, but it would be an exercise in futility. But overall, it's a cool little gun. And guns like this are kind of hard for me to use because there's no instinctive grab position. I can actually get my fingers on it and shoot them, and I have before. but avoiding the trigger at the end of the stroke, and yeah, just not a good, even if it were a good idea to pocket a 120-year-old mouse gun caliber, this would not be a good choice. But they're an interesting piece of history and a callback to a time when firearms were viewed very differently and often with a much more utilitarian and apolitical bent than they are given today. So thanks again to the local collector that has allowed me to present this. And I hope this finds you well. Stay safe, take care, and I'll talk to you again real soon.